Our buddy from Bleacher Report, Howard Beck, joining us from New York City, back here on the Rich Eisen Show, fresh off of posting yesterday a column, an article entitled NBA Execs Skeptical Lakers Can Build a Title Team After Anthony Davis Overpay. I know you don't usually write a headline when you write the article, but that's saying a mouthful right there, Howard. Why are NBA executives so skeptical right now?
Yeah, to be clear, Rich, I don't think they're skeptical that the Lakers can build a title. They're skeptical of their ability to build, period. Now, when you start with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you're already 75, 80% of the way there, and you're already probably in contention. But they have three players when this deal is done, as it's currently constructed, and that's LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Kyle Kuzma. That's fine, but, you might need a point guard and a shooting guard and some guys off the bench who can score and defend and rebound and make plays and occasionally give LeBron a breather. There's a lot of building left to do. So the point is this. Let's leave the trade aside for the moment. I'm sure we'll get back to the actual pieces. But when you look at what the Lakers have and what they need to do to create a team, there's a lot of vacancies. They have somewhere between $23 and $32 million, just depending on how this trade ultimately unfolds. And there's a lot of spots to fill. Now, LeBron in his prime, even at 27, you still needed a supporting cast, whether he was in Cleveland, Miami, or wherever. The Heat don't win those titles without Shane Battier and Mario Chalmers, Rashard Lewis, Ray Allen. They're gonna need a supporting cast, and so there's a lot of work yet to do there. Rob Pelinka, in his brief time with the Lakers, has not shown the ability to build a team. He has, in fact, last summer under Rob and Magic Johnson at that time, they had one of the most baffling off seasons we've ever seen, aside from signing LeBron. So it's one thing to get the star who already wants to come to your city and to your franchise to come. They did that with LeBron. They did it again with Anthony Davis. It's another thing to actually have a plan and the ability to build out a roster, and that's kind of important. I mean, again, they're way ahead of the game by having the two players they have. They need to build a team.
Well, and in terms of that, look, I don't think there's any argument about how poorly the roster was woven here in Los Angeles last year. There's no question about that, and there's every reason to question Pelinka's, talent eye in order to put one together here, no question. But I want to read a line from your piece that was right down at the bottom. Just as alarming, because you're talking about how alarming it is after a quote saying, never let your GM be in a spot where he needs to make a trade to save his job, as in reference to Pelinka. Just as alarming, the Lakers seemingly put no thought into the timing of the deal's execution, potentially costing themselves around $9 million in salary cap room. Is Pelinka really just that clueless that he would not even pay attention? I mean, he was an agent for a while. Would he be really that without a clue, Howard?
Well, there's a huge difference between being an agent and being a general manager. Huge difference. And, let's list a couple of examples of guys who have made that transition well, because people will immediately point to Bob Myers with the Warriors. Bob Myers stopped being an agent, went and spent a year apprenticing essentially with the Warriors before he took over as general manager. Neil O'Shea went to the Los Angeles Clippers under Mike Dunleavy and spent, I think, multiple years actually within their front office learning the ropes before Neil took over as the Clippers GM, and then ultimately, of course, he's with Portland now. Pelinka went straight there. He went straight there with Magic, who also had never done the job. The salary cap and the CBA, it's monstrous. It is so detailed, so layered, so confusing and complex. You don't just absorb that overnight. And if you don't have a great staff, and this is the other problem, then you're prone to making mistakes like not realizing that the timing of the trade would matter in terms of how much cap room you could preserve. And you miss things like, Anthony Davis has a $4 million trade kicker. Before you consummate the deal with the Pelicans, you should seek permission from them to speak with Anthony Davis and his reps to say, listen, we'd like you to waive the trade kicker as a condition of coming because that $4 million could help us get you a better supporting cast. The problem is if you consummate the deal first and then you try to do it and go, I guess we should have considered that. Well, now he's basically having to give money back. But if you do it at the front end as part of the negotiation, you're in better shape. And the Pelicans are incentivized to help them on that if you ask them at the front of the deal, because the Pelicans are the ones who actually have to pay the trade kicker, even though it goes on the Lakers' cap. It's a cap hit for the Lakers.
Right. But my question I have for you, just hearing all this, sorry to interrupt. I love the back and forth that you and I have here. Is that this is a clutch sports creation, right? I mean, what do you think? Rich Paul and Anthony Davis are going to come to the Lakers and then hamstring Pelinka's ability to build a championship team for LeBron over $4 million? I mean, that's why some of this stuff just doesn't compute to me, Howard.
Yeah, Rich. I mean, look, you're right, but here's the thing: players take, and I don't want to get into a whole thing about what players are, what they owe their teams or what they don't, all that sort of stuff. But players take the max all the time, knowing full well that money, that max contract that they've earned, will also hamstring their team. It's just baked into the system. Every dollar you earn is a dollar that's not available for the team to spend under the salary cap or possibly under the luxury tax threshold. It's just baked into the system. So if you tell somebody this is what we're going to offer you, you're never going to say no. But if you present it in a different way, listen, here's what we're offering you, but if you took a couple million less, it'll help us sign some guys. And that's what the Heat did with LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh back in 2010. It helped them get Mike Miller. It helped them re-sign Udonis Haslem. But you've got to do that at the front end. And so in this case, it's a trade kicker. The kicker is only worthwhile if he's traded. So it's money he doesn't have yet. But once you've consummated the deal and now he's expecting to get it, now you're asking him to reverse that. And look, you're right. He should have incentive as LeBron's new teammate to give the Lakers all the latitude in the world to help the two of them get a better supporting cast. But he's not obligated to. It's in his contract to get that $4 million, and that's a lot of money to just give up. So it should have been broached beforehand. And my understanding as of a couple of days ago is that conversation not only hadn't happened before the consummation of the deal verbally, but still had never been discussed.
Okay, so then where do things stand right now, Howard Beck of Bleacher Report, as we're going to see a fourth overall pick is going – it's going to happen. At some point, the fourth overall pick is going to be on the clock, and it's going to be transacted. The question is for whom? When do we find all this stuff out, Howard? What's the time frame here?
Well, I feel bad for the fourth pick, whoever that might be, because they're going to go across the stage. They're going to be announced as being a Laker. They're going to put on a Laker hat. And the first thing it's going to be is, so where do you think you're really going? Are you a New Orleans Pelican? Are the Pelicans flipping that pick again, which is a decent bet? I don't know where that fourth pick is going or who it will be. And I'm not sure when we'll actually know because – there's the draft tonight. Free agency doesn't start until, whatever they've now made it 6 p.m. on June 30th, technically, or whatever. The moratorium, the theoretical moratorium where you, quote unquote, can't do deals, doesn't lift until July 6th. And that is, as of right now, when this trade should go through. So there's just a lot of time left and different trigger points here. I'm not sure when we'll know the reality of it all. I suspect that if they rework the deal to try to delay the execution till later in July or whatever else, that stuff will leak out soon enough.
Now, I imagine. And what would be the Pelicans? And I guess this is the point of your article that so many NBA executives are saying, why didn't the Lakers hammer all this stuff out before saying yes? So what would the Pelicans? What skin in their game do they have to let the Lakers get this transaction happening as late as possible?
Well, and this is the funny part. So, it's not funny if you're a Laker fan or if you're the Lakers. One, again, these are things that they should have broached beforehand and not gotten to this point because now you're going back to David Griffin, the Pelicans GM, and saying, Griff, we're a little bit of a bind here. We could use an extra $9 million in cap room, and we can't get it unless we push back this deal. And Griffith's meanwhile saying, no, listen, I got other things lined up here. I want to flip the fourth pick. That team's going to want to sign that guy. We can't wait on that. They're going to want that guy at Summer League. We can't just delay this whole thing. And so then the Lakers are saying, all right, what's it going to take? And now you're back to negotiating. And now the Pelicans are back to being in a position where they can extract even more from you than they already have.
But what's left? What's left?
A ton left. I don't know. I mean, another pick swap somewhere in there. There's still Kuzma, I guess. I don't think they're going to give him up. They're just – this is why you need an experienced hand doing this. This is why when Magic stepped down – here's the irony. the Lakers got schooled on this deal from a negotiating standpoint. Again, as I wrote, they won the trade. They got Anthony Davis. They got the best player. They got a top 5 player. They lost the negotiation. And they did because they got schooled by a better, more experienced GM, David Griffin, who the Lakers could have hired after Magic stepped down. And instead they decided to stick with everybody they had, promoted Rob Pelinka. I've asked around, who is advising him? Who do they have to navigate things like tricky cap wrinkles and things like trade kickers and all these little details that can get by you because you need a strong staff? And I haven't gotten any good answers from anybody. So they're in a bit of a bind. But at the end of the day, look, they're still going to have Anthony Davis, and that shouldn't get lost in all of this. And I do want to make very clear, too, like, this isn't just my judgment about how the trade went down or whether they lost the negotiation. This is everybody I've talked to around the league is pretty much universally seeing this as the Lakers did not do this well.
Well, what about the idea that people are going to want to play with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and the narrative of a week ago that the Lakers were a dumpster fire that no one would want to come play with, and that if they totally whiff on everything, that the future of LeBron James in Los Angeles would even have to be put into question, and that's all gone now. That's gone heading into July 1st, right?
Yep. No, listen, this is a great palate cleanser. Now, I don't think anybody, certainly not Laker fans, are going to forget anytime soon what's gone on the last few months and how bad things have been. And I would say it's still kind of a wait and see. I mean, look, getting Anthony Davis puts you back in contention. It restores some credibility. But that's why, again, to the anonymous GMs that I quoted in the piece, that's why you don't have somebody who's under the gun. I mean, look, it was a bit of hyperbole by the one GM to say, you know, your job being on the line. Rob Pelinka probably wasn't going to be getting fired if he didn't pull something off this summer. But he certainly is under immense pressure to get LeBron James help, to save face, to make the Lakers look respectable again in the wake of all of the nonsense that's gone on in recent months. And that pressure did come to bear. That pressure is evident in the results of this trade, in which they gave up almost every trade asset that they had, including picks that leave them encumbered with regard to picks all the way until potentially 2025. So there's just a lot of downside risk there, and they gave up more than they should have needed to.
So, Howard Beck, Bleacher Report, before I let you go, let's talk Rockets a little bit here. I want to walk you through a few things, and if you can quickly, as best you can, tell me what's as close to the truth or not. First things first, the relationship between Chris Paul and James Harden, as reported by Yahoo, is no longer reconcilable. What do you think?
I mean, listen, there's more reporting than just that. The ESPN.com, Tim McMahon had an extensive article about their frayed relationship, too. So, you know, whether it's frayed, whether it's irreparable, whether it's however you want to classify it, there's clearly a problem there. And there were a lot of, like, public, bits of evidence just in terms of their interactions post-game and in-games. There's tension there. Now, you can win despite the tension, but, you know, this is a too much smoke to not be fire situation. And, the Rockets clearly are looking to move Chris Paul. There's been multiple reports about that. They're in a tough spot, and it's not just that they don't have enough firepower and a lot locked up in an older Chris Paul. It's that, their two stars don't seem to be enjoying each other anymore.
All right, give me the best case scenario. Who would be able to acquire Paul? I mean, who would want him, and who has the ability to pull off the trade assets for Daryl Morey and then the whole fitting his monster salary under the cap?
I don't know. I just don't know. It's a huge salary. No one's going to be able to just absorb it. You're going to have to find a way to make a deal where you're at least getting close to matching the salaries. Does anybody want Chris Paul at this age on that number? You never say never. Every time we say there's an untradeable contract, somebody gets traded anyway. So, but this one's a really high bar. I mean, if you're asking me, is he a Rocket next season? I say yes.
Okay. And then last one for you on this front is, what about Capella? Are the Rockets a trade player tonight? What happens this evening?
If they can find a way to trade Capella, see, here's the thing. I keep seeing people throw out Capella scenarios that don't end up with the Rockets actually moving forward. If they're going to flip Capella, who's a decent young big and a good dive man in the pick and roll, you need to at least get back a player or players who are helping you now. This isn't going to be a situation where you're just dumping his contract and getting some, picks or fringe guys. The Rockets still want to contend as long as they've got James Harden, and certainly as long as they're stuck with Chris Paul too. So I don't know what the right deal there is. I don't know if this is just going to be a reshuffling of deck chairs, but they're kind of stuck. They don't have a lot else that's movable. They don't have a lot to work with, but Daryl Morey's as creative and aggressive as they come, and maybe he doesn't pull off something tonight, but probably something in July. And
then tonight, give me your prediction of craziest rumor that has a chance to come true, and if you're right, we'll replay it, and if you're wrong, this conversation never happened, Howard.
Oh, man. I don't even know where to begin with that one. I'm trying to think of what the most spectacular thing that could possibly happen would be.
Because I'm thinking, obviously everybody thinks it's chalk top 3 tonight, and then there could be tons of trades involving players of significance, or there could be nothing. So if something totally goes off the rails tonight, give me your best prediction on that if you can. If you don't, that's all good. And if you're right, we'll replay it. And if it's wrong, then don't worry about it.
I wish I were creative enough to come up with something like that on the fly. I think there are 3 teams I would watch for just aggressive moves tonight that might surprise us or that might upend things.
Okay.
Toronto, because Masai Ujiri knows whether Kawhi stays or goes. He's got some aging issues in parts of that roster, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Masai make some bold move tonight. The Rockets, for sure, as we've mentioned, and then always keep an eye on Danny Ainge and the Celtics, especially with the moves that are happening now where they're expecting to lose Kyrie and expecting to lose Al Horford, and they got to kind of retool on the fly. Those are the teams I would keep an eye on.
Well done, Howard. Thanks for the call, brother. Enjoy tonight. We'll chat soon.
Always a pleasure, Rich. Thanks, man.
That's Howard Beck, Bleacher Report, at Howard Beck on Twitter.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download The Rich Eisen Show app.